Anyway, Lucy, do you know what we're talking about today?
Yeah, the mail.
Yeah.
Did we get any emails, Brandon?
We got
We
an
did.
email.
Or me? Who's reading it?
We got an email, an audience. What do you call this? It's not a user.
Listener.
Listener. We got a
That's the one.
email.
What do people
We got
do
a-
with us?
what do they do with us?
Did they ask us to stop recording? Is that
They
what it
did
is? Is it
not.
a plead for us to cease?
It is not
Operations,
It is,
or-
We've
okay,
deleted
well, that's good.
all of those emails.
this is a cease and desist letter.
Somebody wants to hear from us. I don't know why, but they do.
I don't know. We have listeners. Oh my goodness.
I know
God.
we do.
I don't know. Okay, I have to. Yeah, hold on. Let me go put on a
You say
tie.
so. Better go get one of your
Tucks out.
suits, Brandon.
I am. I'm gonna go get one of my suits. Hold on. Let me go wash them in the washer. And
Don't
Hannah,
break
Hannah, would you like to read it? I feel like you have a good reading voice.
If it's a dumpster fire, you guys will just have to take over.
Well, we just blame the email and just say that the email was
Yeah.
this is a dumpster fire of an email. No, go ahead if you would like to give it a shot.
All right. So it says, "Hi, Hannah, Lucy, and Brandon. I really enjoy listening to your parenting experiences. As a new mom, I worry about a lot of things. Is my 11-month-old drinking enough water? Does she get enough social interaction with other babies and kids? And her nap schedule. I can definitely overthink a nap schedule. I have a feeling that I might look back and think, wow, I could have lightened up a bit. What were some of the things that you worried about as new parents that didn't actually need to be worried about?" Signed, Ease Mom.
Ah, well, thank you,
That's
Ease
a really
Mom.
great email. Yeah, thank
that's
you.
wonderful. Thank you.
It was not a dumpster fire.
It was not a dumpster fire. This was a great email.
It was a great email, and it was well read. It was very well read.
Thank you.
The narration was excellent.
Yes.
Okay, so Lucy, do you have any experience with that?
What did I worry about as a new parent that I don't feel like I needed to worry about? Is that the
That's
question?
That's a good
Okay.
start. Yeah.
Oh, good. I was listening. That's the first. I don't know. Like, oh God, it was so long ago.
It's been 87
Oh yeah.
Or
Yeah,
even
yeah.
now, like
been
even in the last
7
couple years.
years.
Like it doesn't have to be about like when the kid was, under 1, but just in general, like as a kid, as a
I
toddler.
don't like.
Do you find
Sorry, I
yourself to
just
be a
glitched.
worrying parent?
No, not really.
You don't.
I
you
don't. I the only thing that I worry about is like whether whether he feels like I love him enough, and whether he feels like that he can talk to me. That's another really big thing. I am always worried. Like, I hope that he doesn't feel like he can't come and talk to me about something.
Yeah.
But in terms of like sleeping and eating and all that kind of stuff, like kids are resilient. I will say when he was like a baby and a toddler, I was very rigid about naps. That was something that was really important to us. Because
And do you think it
without
occupied your mind a lot? Like you were maybe.
No, I wasn't like, okay, I have this long, except when I was at home by myself, and that was more of a countdown for me than for him. Like, when do I get my next break? But he was also a sleeper. So like if he didn't get the sleep, he was awful. I mean that in the best way possible. But like he was miserable. So
Grumpy.
Yeah, it benefited both of us for him to get the right amount of sleep. And like naps were not that I had like a timer or anything, but it was like okay, he needs to go for his nap around this time, needs to go to bed around this time, that kind of thing. Just
Do you
'cause
find
it
Sorry, do you find that Sterling was a worry parent or is a worry parent, or you guys both pretty chill?
I never thought he was, but I think he is.
Okay.
In light of some recent developmental milestones in our life and our household. Yeah, I think he worries a little bit more than I do. I just like, I think it also is like based on your kid. I don't worry about mine because like I see him and I know that in almost every way he's at or ahead of most kids. Like based on his like pool of children that he spends time with. So like and as my mom always used to say, like always says to me, like in terms of like academic stuff, like reading and writing, like he's not gonna graduate high school if like without being able to write a sentence, without being able to read a book, right? Just because they're not at the same point that like their fellow children are doesn't necessarily mean that they're behind, because there's still time for them to catch up.
Yeah, they have all the tools that they need throughout.
Yeah. And like sometimes kids just don't develop at the same speed. They're all individuals. They all, at the same way that one of his classmates has lost like, oh my gosh, maybe almost all of his teeth at this point. Like my kids only lost 4, right? They will like, they all develop differently. They'll all get there eventually. There are more important things to occupy my mind with.
Fair enough. I feel like you are going to be, again, maybe the opposite. I know you're the opposite of me. I don't know about you, Brandon. Are you a worry parent, Brandon?
As one more example, as to my general like outlook on life. I remember when I was pregnant and my doctor said, "So what's your birth plan?" And I said, "I don't know. We're just going to have a baby, I guess." It'll like, she was like, "You don't have any like expectations?" And I'm like, "No, because let's just get through it. It'll you got to do what works in that moment." I don't know. I can't, as a personal choice, I can't make these long-term plans because I don't know what things are going to work out as. You don't know how things are going to change or what's going to happen or whatever.
That sounds really nice. I am so the opposite.
I also feel like I should say I am riddled with anxiety at almost every moment of the day, but
just not about your kid.
Just about two very different things.
Yeah, fair enough. Carrying too much anxiety somewhere else to that's awesome that you don't have those worries. Like it is. I mean, I think it's very normal to have worries, and I don't want our listener to think that it's not.
No, I think it is. I think everybody's worried about something.
There are people that don't.
Hannah and I are about to talk, so
we're like, we're
having a panic attack right now,
thinking about just like the amount of worries I've had, sleepless nights or sleepless moments.
I think that you could also like the whole like back to like the potty training thing, right? Like when we were talking about potty training. For me, it was always just like, well, whatever. Like, you pee your pants. We get new pants. Life goes on. You know? Like, you make a mistake, pick yourself up, life goes on.
All right, Brandon, where are we starting? From the very beginning or from the current date? Because this might be a 4-hour podcast now.
Which child do you want to start with? Do we want to start on before? I mean, like I had my first real nervous like attack when we were doing the parenting course, and I was just like, oh my god, this is just so much more than I thought it was.
You took a parenting course?
Okay, excuse me, miss. I have a complete calm demeanor. Whatever happens is whatever happens. You are not allowed to judge anything that Hannah and I say right now.
I didn't take a parenting class. I didn't take a birthing class.
Yeah, that's great for you, but we did because we are very
books.
Great.
Oh, Lucy.
All right, Lucy. We did.
Okay.
I also have a partner that is an ultra planner. Is someone that like needs to research and needs to. That is how they push their anxiety down as much as possible, is that they do as much research and they do as much planning, not necessarily as much structure, not they don't put like limitations, but it's just having the amount of information that you can, as much information as possible can be like, downloaded into your brain, and as much preparation that can be done is how she kind of quells her anxiety.
Knowledge is power.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just how she stays calm. That helps me to a point, but like I can't overcome those overwhelming feelings of. I mean, that parenting course absolutely was the first moment. Like I don't even think I was very joyous when we found out that we were having a kid. We were having a child when we were pregnant. Well, she was pregnant. I was there. It was very much.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, no worries. It's like, but knowing that I'm going to become a parent and everything, it's like I was like, oh, it's great. Like, we planned for it. So like I was, hoping for it. It happens. Oh, this is very exciting, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, life's going to change. It's going to be wonderful. And then I just remember being in that parenting class and just being like, oh, dear Lord, they're asking me where the things are, like, when do you cut the cord? Oh my goodness, they're asking me about how you hold a baby. Oh God, like it's just, for me, I just then continue to, my anxiousness and my anxiety and my own neuroses or whatever just kind of boiled over a little bit. But then what I find with those classes, just using them as an example, is why I feel like they're so helpful is not necessarily all of the knowledge that you get from it, which can be plentiful, or it can be okay, or depending on what your teacher is and what the course is and stuff. But definitely, like, I found being there with other parents and seeing like the fear on all of their faces too, where you're just like, oh, okay, so like this is like a normal way to feel. It's a normal way to feel like, okay, just like this is very overwhelming. You are out of your depth, but like the way that you get through this is that you just kind of take it thing by thing, not moment by moment, but like you just take the information as it comes and you try to take as much in as you can. But then also just go, you're not alone in that. You're not alone in feeling this anxiousness. For me personally, the anxiousness just never went away. like they're just like, I don't think I ever got more anxious or less anxious, but I think up until a certain point, which is then when we had our twins. I think when we had our twins and when they came home, that was like the first, I would say, week I got a real glimpse of just, having been a parent for a while now to a single child, bringing two more home, I can feel myself as being more relaxed and more confident and with them because I have done this before. So it's like every time that you do something new, it's like it's always scary, but then it's like having bringing them home was able to show me that like, but you are gaining some confidence. You are every day. You are letting go of that anxiousness and that worry every day that you kind of have to go through another problem. The real trap of parenting, I find, is that every day is like a new problem. So it's like you're just constantly feeling overwhelmed because like then they grow, then they get older, they're able to speak. And then they start asking you questions that you're just like, I don't know, like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like,
oh my God.
And that's just an example of just like different things happen at different times. So, it's just, it is very overwhelming. And I don't think that it ever really goes away. I just feel like you just get used to it. Like, I think you just get used to like, I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to do with the nap schedule, but then you're just like, okay, let's take it one step at a time and let's just like kind of go through it. And I'm going to be overwhelmed, but let's let not that, kind of derail me in just making the same choices that I made before, or making different choices if it's a different kid and if that's what you choose to do. So I think maybe that's kind of in general where I come at it now, is that I'm not going to not be anxious. I'm not going to not worry. I just have to accept the fact that I'm going to worry, and then kind of, all right, then let's start from there, and then start doing stuff, and let's start making choices, and let's start figuring it out. Anyways.
Yeah. And one thing that E's mom actually asked too was, what are some things that you worried about as new parents that didn't actually need to be worried about? And I think that we could kind of take this in two ways, because after going through it, there are times when you look back on it and you're like, I really didn't need to worry about how much water my kid was having. I wasn't going to drown my child. I wasn't going to overfeed or underfeed. But in the moment, it does feel like that. And I think that it's normal, and I think that it's okay. And I think it can be really wonderful when you have a partner that sometimes helps balance you out. You take turns worrying about things, and Corey and I are kind of like that. We worry about different things at different times, and we kind of help each other out. And like going back to that parenting course, ours was more of we did both, I think. We did like a birthing one and a parenting one. And there was, in the birthing one, we had a really wonderful teacher for both of them. And she kept talking about the 511. That's when you need to go to the hospital, right? And like I forget what it was, like 5 minutes apart for 1 minute and another minute for something. I don't know. And
they last for a minute? They last for a minute?
They last for a minute, but then what's the other one?
Mine was, my doctor told me it was 3 minutes apart and they last for a minute. And you can't.
And for an hour.
Yeah.
And
if that continues
my doctor
for an
also
hour.
told me,
That's what
like,
it is.
you can't distract yourself from the pain.
Ours said you can't talk through it. If you can't talk through the pain and you can't talk while it's happening, then it's Sorry, sorry, that's what it was. Sorry, go ahead, Hannah.
So like it was the 511, and it was something that I just, for whatever reason, I could never get it right. And I just was like, maybe it was the pregnancy brain, I don't know. But then my partner, like Corey, always had it. And like we were in the class, and like they would be like, does anybody remember what it is? And Corey was always the one to be like, yep, I got it. It's the 511. It's this and this and this. And I was like, okay, well, somebody here is with me that can help me through this. And it was like I had a partner to help balance me out. But, and then he just worried about other things, and I worried about some things. But there was always an anxiety between one of us or two of us. I remember thinking, like I had a midwife, and I remember going to the midwife and being like, I've never craved candy. I'm not a candy person. I'm a salt person. I like chips. And I have eaten so much candy. Am I okay to do this? Like, I was worried about how much candy I was eating. And she was like, well, I think, and like, these people are wonderful. These people that you talk with, your medical professionals, not always, but like sometimes they are so wonderful. And she like very calmly was like, I think you're going to be okay. We will be doing the diabetic test to make sure that things are good. And it's okay to eat some candy sometimes. You're pregnant. You're going to want to have some candy or maybe some ice cream with pickles. Who knows? But it's okay to do so.
Yeah. My doctor said I could have the occasional beer if it was something that helped me get through the day or whatever. Like it was... and then I remember she said that, and I looked at her and I was like, so basically everything in moderation? And she was like, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, my doctor kind of broke it down to us like, having a glass of wine is not a bad thing when you're pregnant. Like you can do that. And they said the reason why we say no alcohol, one, they don't test it. Like they're not going to research this because nobody wants to go under
no
that
one
research.
Wants to be the test subject,
right? But two is that somebody says it's okay to have the occasional glass of wine, and what the occasional glass of wine to some people would be once a month, once a week, but to somebody else it's one a day, 3 a day, a bottle a day. So it's like, right, so you just say no alcohol. But anyway, so like there was having that person, there was different people to help get through it, but also I think talking about it is really important. Like, reach out to your friends and be like, friends that have had kids or friends that even haven't had kids, just talking to friends about like, man, I am worrying about this. Have you ever thought about this? Or, I think that can also be really important to like, and, I made some friends in those. I think that was also really important for me with those parenting and birthing classes, was that I met people in our area that were having kids, because I didn't know I was the first one of my friends to have kids. I didn't know people that were having kids.
Me too.
And so I met these two wonderful women and having very different experiences from me too, like, and so we got together for the first little while, and like we would chat after class and like talk about different things we were going through and our different pregnancies, and just like it was really wonderful to normalize it, because all these worries and fears about sometimes what seems like the silliest thing, or in the moment seems like the most extreme thing, and then years later seems like the most ridiculous thing, it's still a thing in the moment, and it's okay to have that worry. It's just now what?
Yeah. I think the best, another, maybe not the best, but like a very good piece of advice is to like, don't just keep it inside your head, like, because it's just like, you go talk to like people. What you're saying, go talk to somebody or go talk to people, even if it doesn't matter who it is. It's just like, it's good to just like say it out loud, and to kind of, sometimes I find that if I just say it out loud, I can hear myself speaking, and I can just be like, man, you're a little, you gotta,
like, you know what, that sounds silly now.
Yeah, you gotta, all right. So it does sound, but in your head, it sounds, you're completely justified, and you're having a nervous breakdown, and then you say it out, and you're just like, what am I talking about? Like, of course the kid can have a pickle. Like, it's like, why am I upset that the kid, right. Like, you know, like, it's like, this is ridiculous. Like, it's like, let them try it, and if they don't like it, then that's, you know,
you don't have to feed it to them every single day for their only food all the time.
Yeah. That's usually what the person then says back to me. It's just like, maybe don't serve it as much. Like, that seems like a lot of pickles. That's a lot of pickles, Brandon. But it's like, it's being able to like, I find that if you keep it all inside and keep it in your head, you will only make it worse. So like having a conversation about it, or you know, if you are nervous about talking to people about it, it's like, then go and online and research it and look it up and like, see if it's okay, because at least then it's like a little bit, you can find something that maybe explains it a little bit better to you, or like, talks you off the ledge a little bit of just going, oh my God, they're not sleeping the full 90 minutes, only 80 minutes. Is this going to be bad for their development? Because I've been there where it's just like, especially with sleep, because I have 3 kids and they've never all lined up that they're all sleeping well. Like, it's like, I don't think that it's ever happened. I've had twins are 2 years old now, so it's like for 2 years I've had 3 kids, and it's like we can get 2 of them to work, and 2 of them still nap, but then they're doing good naps, and then Michelle isn't sleeping through the night, and she's coming into our bed, and then it's like, this is because she's having bad dreams, and then we can figure that out, and then she feels comfortable, and then Junior's doing something like where it's like, oh, he's not sleeping well, or he only wants to take 30-minute naps and stuff. I feel that like having more kids has shown me that it's like they all just run on their own schedule, and you're just trying to like move them into the best direction, but they're going to eventually choose the specific kind of, maybe not choose, but they're just going to go down the specific path that they're going to go down, and they go through long runs and long streaks or whatever, or whatever you want to say. They go through these long periods of time where they look like they're derailing in a certain aspect. I've had kids I've had kids. Some of my kids, they go through phases where they are eating very, very well, and then one of them or 2 of them, it's like, doesn't matter what I cook them for dinner, they just won't eat. Like, and you think something's wrong, and I'm not doing it well, and it's just that. But really, it's just that when I think back to it, Michelle has done that so far all her life. Is like, there's been like it's like there's just times where she's like, oh, she eats dinner every night, but then she doesn't eat breakfast, or she loves breakfast, but then lunch is like 2 veggie straws, and she's just like, now can I have some Nutella? Like, and you're just like, what are you talking about? Like, you haven't eaten any. Like, it's like, we've done this, we've gone through this process before. So I find that like with seeing that has kind of maybe a little bit more relaxed in, I can only do so much to help them before like they kind of have to also be a part of the process of like figuring it out themselves. Not completely, obviously, that's why you're there, is to help them, but they've got to become a part of it. They got to become a part of the process.
Well, they have to. I feel like a lot of people forget that like kids are just like mini versions of us. Like, I'm sure that you would rather have Nutella for lunch some days, but you don't. You make the choice to eat something that's not Nutella. But like a kid is like, well, why can't I have Nutella? They don't understand why they can't. They just like, and they don't have the self-restraint to not have it. They just know that they want it, and why can't they have it? Like, we have that a lot in our house, because the kids like, well, like he's struggling with like the I want this, why can't I have it? Like or especially like with like screens now, it's a lot of like, well, I'm not allowed to have it, so why can you have it? I'm not allowed to watch TV, why are you allowed to look at your phone? Which is coming up a lot.
Right, and that's like an openness of more understanding of the world, seeing those things and putting those things together. That's not something that you're going to struggle with 3-4 years ago, because he's not going to be able to have the ability to be able to piece that kind of together.
Yeah.
But 3-4 years ago, I'm sure there was other things that you're just like you're struggling over and stuff that now you don't struggle with. But now it's like there's and I use struggle just in the general term of just like you're trying to figure it out, you're trying to navigate this sort of stuff. But
like as they get older, that stuff's easier and yet more difficult.
Because the new ones become more difficult, but they only become more difficult. I don't even know how much they become more difficult as much as because it's now a new thing that you have to figure out. It's just hard.
Yes.
It's just, and that's another thing with parenting is I find this like it just becomes, it doesn't become harder or easier. It's just every step of it just is like another hard obstacle that you have to like over.
I always remember people like, because like I was the first, we were the first like people in our friend group to have a kid. People would always be like, oh, so like he's 4 now. Is that difficult? Is it like more difficult? And I'm like, yes and no. Like aspects got easier, but different aspects got more difficult. Like it's like they keep moving the goalposts as you progress through it. Like they change the rules and then they move the goalposts and as soon as you figure out what game you're playing, they move them again. And then,
or they decide to play a new game. Like you're just like,
now we're moving.
Then they're
like,
switching sports. We're switching
now
sports.
it's like 6 against 1, or like now instead of scoring throwing a basketball, we're now playing with a hockey puck. Like it's.
Guys, we're not.
But you still have to throw it.
Yeah. I can explain that, but I just didn't want to mansplain anything. It's just like you're describing the wrong sport, Lucy.
That's the point.
No. I know. I'm aware.
I feel like at some point we have all worried about food, eating, something to some degree, sleep, and social interactions, which are all things that E's mom like messaged us about. Like, these are the 3 things that like, especially when they're young, we all worry about all of those things. And looking back on it, I probably could have lightened up a bit, but like it's also, like you said, it's new, it's challenging, and it's all things that we're going to go through. And who knows if we'll even remember this in like 10-15 years. Are we going to look back and be like, even remember how the nap schedules were? Like I between my first kid and my second kid, I couldn't remember what I did for the nap schedules, and they're only 2 years apart, and I kind of forgot about it. So I don't think there's anything wrong with worrying. I think it's very normal. But I will tell you this wild story. I mean, it's not that wild. It was ridiculous. A thing that I worried about that was absolutely ridiculous. R was like this little tiny baby. It would have been like, I don't know, a month old, right? And so we had virtual care kind of before it was a big thing, like pre-pandemic. So it was 2018 or 19. And we had this app, and it was virtual nurses on call 24/7. And I woke up in the night and R had not peed, and it had been hours and hours. And I remember like, learning like a newborn should have a wet diaper every, again, I don't remember what it is. What is it, 3 hours or something?
I don't know.
Or X amount of wet diapers in 12 hours, X amount of poops and whatever in 24 hours.
Somewhere between 12 minutes and 5 hours. Like, and you're just like, well, I don't know what's right.
And it was like midnight, 3. It must have been like 3 in the morning. It was the middle of the night, and R hadn't peed. And it had been since he went to bed. So probably since like 7 o'clock. And I panicked, and I was like, oh my God, he has not peed in so long. What do? I hop on this app. I do a video call at 3 in the morning with a nurse because I'm freaking out. And I'm pretty sure Corey was on board for me to call just for peace of mind, but I'm pretty sure he was kind of like, I think it's okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need a nurse to tell me that this is okay. Like, I do not feel good about this. And I
What do
called
you
a
know?
nurse.
What do you know?
I literally video called at 3 a.m. to figure out why my baby had not peed since he went to bed. And of course, the nurse was like, I think he's okay. It's safe for you to go back to sleep. If he hasn't had a diaper by 7 in the morning, like a wet diaper by 7 in the morning, when you get up in the morning, give us another call. Or like, if you're really worried about it, you can bring him to your family doctor to a walk-in. And like, they were very reassuring. And sure enough, like, the next feeding he had a wet diaper, like it was,
of course,
but it was one of those things that like, I won't forget making those calls at 3 a.m. to a nurse on my video calls. And those were things that I like so panicked about. A pee. He hadn't peed in too long. Like that was what I was worried about. Or like, oh my goodness, the things that I stressed about. I got cold sores. I get stress cold sores. Or like it's, my whole family, my aunt gets them really badly too. And it's like, if I haven't slept, if I'm stressed, if I haven't eaten well, like there are all these factors. If I hit my lip hard enough, I'm going to get a cold sore. Like it's ridiculous. And so as a new mom, I haven't slept. I haven't, had a proper meal. Actually, that's not true. I ate pretty well when I had our, but like all these, I haven't been sleeping and I'm super stressed and I'm really worried. And I kept getting these cold sores. And then it just like, I was so worried about literally killing R. I thought that I was going to give him a cold sore and kill him. And so I was washing my hands constantly. Like I would, put a cream on my lip and I would scrub my hands. I would do anything and then scrub my hands. My hands were so raw. Like they were almost bleeding because I was washing. It's the middle of winter, so it's dry already. I'm washing them like it's basically like I've been bleaching my hands. And I was fine. And I never killed my baby. And my midwife reassured me. She said people have been having cold sores for years. Yes, if he were to contract it, it could be very dangerous for him. But keep washing your hand. Don't kiss him. Don't put your mouth on his face. And don't. You just use regular common sense, and you will be fine.
That's it. Kind of feels like that's
my hands bleed.
It kind of feels like that's what they're like always saying is like they don't want to say it in such like a pushy way, like anyone that's like whether it's a nurse or whatever, but they just want to. All they want to say is like, can we just take a deep breath and use some common sense? And like, and it's but they can't say that because you're a stressed out, overtired parent that's just basically going. If a nurse were to say that or anybody were to say that, I'd just be like, now you listen to me. Like it's like, and you shut up. Like it's like this is my child. We're talking. Don't you take this? And it's just like they're going
when the kid was a baby, I think he was like under a year. I get cold sores too. It's like a genetic thing because my mom gets them. So like I picked it up from her at some point. Anyway, when he was a baby, I got this thing on my finger. And I was like, what is this? It hurt. It was like a little bump, like a little blister. And there was like 3 of them. And I was like, what is this? So
wait, you got it or the kid got it?
I got it.
Okay.
Because I get cold sores too. So I go to
I thought you said as a baby.
Which I have not revealed at this point, the connection. But so I go to the doctor and they're like, it's basically a cold sore, but it's on your finger. It was on the pointer. It was on my pointer finger on my right hand, which is my dominant hand. And so I go to the doctor. I go to my family doctor. My family, like, she works out of like a practice. So I go there and I see a nurse. And the nurse says, first of all, she takes one look at it and she goes, I'll be right back. And she comes in like full, like hazmat suit, like gown and mask and like gloves. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm
losing a finger
today.
Am I
radioactive? Like what's happening? And so she's like, it's basically like herpes on your finger.
Oh, okay.
Cold sores are herpes.
Cold sores are herpes, just like chicken pox. Like they're all related. And that's what she says. And I was like,
okay, wait, how old were you?
I lost my shit. 30, 20.
Wait, this happened to you as an adult?
29. I hadn't turned 30 yet. Yes, correct. Yeah, like
the
I said,
kid
the kid
was a baby. Sorry, I thought you said you were a baby. That's why I was like, how do you remember this?
No.
I thought you
Like
did.
my child was less than a year old, so I was 29.
Okay.
So I'm at the doctor, and she's like, "It's herpes on your finger," and I was like, "I'm sorry, what?" She gives me no other information, and then she's like, "You just have to wait, and it'll go away." And I was like, "What?" And then she's like, "And don't touch your child with
that sounds
hand."
like a pretty awful.
And I was like, "You're telling me I can't touch my own child with my dominant hand? Like, what is happening here?" And she was like, "Well, you just have to let it go." Like, I'm bawling, crying, like panicking. Like, how am I supposed to look after an 8-month-old without using my hand? I go home. Deep panic spiral. I'm calling my mom. I'm like hysterical. And she's like, "Okay, well, you need like go and see like your actual doctor. Don't just see a nurse." So I go back the next day and I see my doctor, and my actual doctor, and she's like, "Weren't you just here yesterday?" Because like she can see it in the computer, and I'm like, "Yeah." And I tell her everything that happened, and she's like, "Why did she tell you those things?" Like, it's not contagious. It's not a blister. Because it's like, I don't want to give medical advice, but like, it's only the
the open
like the
source
pus that's contagious. It's not like the actual sore. But anyway, so she's like, "It's all good. Like, don't worry about like touching the kid. Like, he's fine. You'll be fine. Everything will be fine. But like, I'm going to send you for some tests." And I was like, "Okay." And she's like, "But like, it'll probably just go away and you probably won't ever get it again." And the
reason why I've asked so many questions, and I'm so flabbergasted by this, is because I have never met anybody that has happened to, but it happened to me when I was in grade 2.
Oh, really?
And that's why I was like, "How old were you?" Because that was super weird, and I have never met anybody that it has ever happened to. And I was in grade 2, and I went to the doctor, and they're like, "You have a cold sore on your thumb," but they gave me medicine for it. Like they gave me. Do you remember that? Most kids love it. The disgusting banana medicine. What is it, like an antibiotic? Probably.
But it's like an antibiotic. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's delicious.
I think it's absolutely
don't know.
disgusting.
Never had it.
Ugh, so gross.
I know what you're talking about.
Well, they should have given you the banana medicine, Lucy.
I wouldn't have taken it anyway. But I appreciate.
You don't take antibiotics?
I remember how like a few weeks ago we were talking. Brandon was like, "I can't take pills." I flatly refuse to take any sort of liquid medicine because it makes me want to puke up my entire insides.
Fair enough. I mean, you are an adult now. They can give you a pill.
Yes.
They wouldn't give you the banana
You don't have to
medicine.
do.
No.
You know, I guess you're just missing out on Buckley's, but that's not. Don't worry about that.
It's like a texture thing. Like,
that's okay.
I won't
That's a
even
last
swallow like
case
Pepto-Bismol
scenario.
because I just
Never had that either. It's just
gross.
Yeah, I've never had Pepto-Bismol. I've never tried it. To be honest with you, I'm a little in the dark about what it even does. Does it just settle your stomach?
I think it
doesn't.
I think what it does is it coats your
like,
stomach. I think it's like this thick thing that coats it so that
You've seen the ads.
I saw this meme recently about like let's make this medicine about diarrhea and write a song about it. Like that everybody remembers. Like it's so ridiculous. Anyway, that's a whole other thing.
Anyways.
So totally off topic, but Lucy, it sounds like you have worried. You have had anxiety and worries. So you are...
Oh, God. I mean, like, yes, about small instances, but not like as an overarching
No, but I think
theme.
that's...
I mean, like I said, full of anxiety, but about other things.
But, you know, with your...
Yeah, but I mean, you had an anxious, like, you know, you were getting...
I thought we were talking like generally, but if you want like specific instances, I'm full of them.
What do you think I've been talking about? I brought up the parenting class. I brought up all sorts of specific, like, it's just, I just happen to have a massive amount of examples. That's all. I just have so many different ways in which that I whether I've kept it inside or I've had a full blown, like, people are like, oh, he's having a day. I have I've had a lot of them, but it sounds like you've had them too, where it's just like you're told that you can't touch your kid because you've got something on your finger. Like, it's like that would be, I don't know, that would make me, especially on my dominant hand too. It's just like, what kind of instructions are these? Do I have to wear a glove the whole time? Well, no, you can't wear a glove because then it won't heal as fast. And it's just like, then what do I do? Like, it's like, that would be my thing.
Was basically like, they didn't give me any information. But so, like, but
I mean, like, I wouldn't, I was like, can I just put a Band-Aid over it? Like, and then can I touch them? Like, then can I hold my kids? It's just like, no, like, when we had the twins, we got sick very early on, like 3 weeks into it. We all got like a cold and stuff. And I had to I was like, do I wear a mask now in front of my own kids, like, around the house? Like, I don't, it was all sorts of, like, again, and that's, compounded by the fact that I had children during the pandemic. So it's like, there's even just this added layer of, like, health stuff that we had to, like, navigate and work our way through and stuff, because we were getting information from all different, you don't need to wear a mask, you need to wear a mask, you need to blah, 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 this, you need to this. Like, it was all sorts of just nonsense stuff that you can plug into your brain that just gives you an anxiety attack or just you're nervous, whatever, to begin with.
I was going to say, it's something that you mentioned earlier too, Brandon, was that, like, you said sometimes you can just Google it to help ease your mind, which for me, I think sometimes is also the opposite effect of, like, when I was pregnant with Elle, I don't know if you remember this, Brandon, but I had a weird ultrasound. Okay, so first of all, I gave birth to Elle in the Durham region of Ontario, and they they monitored me more than they would the average, because they were doing studies because Durham babies were being born larger, which is very weird. Yeah.
Yes, I remember this. Yes, I remember.
Oh, I feel like I remember that.
I was having more ultrasounds than normal, which is fine. But the problem with that is that the ultrasounds are not always 100%, especially as you get farther along, because it's harder to see because that kid is so much bigger inside of you. And there was a bad reading of an ultrasound, and I got the results, and they said that the head was measuring, I was really far along, and they're like, the head was only measuring at 3%, but everything else is measuring at 50%. And then, of course, what do? I Google. And, like, that was like oh my God. And then I don't even have a kid yet. And I'm having all these worries and anxieties, being like, what does it mean to have a small head with a big body? Like, I don't know what this means. What is this going to look like? And so for 24 hours, I cried and stressed and had all these worries and anxieties while also caring for a 2-year-old. And then the next day I had a new ultrasound, and they said, they just read it wrong. You'll just come to this ultrasound place. They're a little bit better at reading things, and everything was totally normal.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it's just, and that's, I if I'm recalling correctly, we had it was another, we didn't have like same type of like anxiousness and stuff, and got all worried and stuff the same way that you did, Hannah. But if I do recall correctly, one of the ultrasounds, probably the anatomy ultrasound, the twin that ended up being Junior, it's like they couldn't get all the measurements because of where he was. So they were trying to measure the head, and it's like they couldn't see the top of his head. They couldn't find the top of his head. They didn't know where his crown was. And it's just it's like they tried, and I guess he decided to take a nap during that ultrasound, which is like what one of them does. Like and then it's like they just like, we can't, like, we just don't know. So we're gonna have to book you in for like another, book Melissa in for another ultrasound in order to be able to, like, just go and test it. And we weren't worried because we were like, well, they can't confirm. It's like you can't confirm nor deny that, like,
does my infant have a head?
Because they just weren't able to see. But I'm me, and it's just like one of those nights that we're waiting for this other ultrasound, like in a couple of days. I'm just like laying there, and I'm just like, okay, but like, what if they did see it?
Of course,
and it's like he is, does, and you just like, and it's just like you just start to, and it's like that type of thinking, I think, whether parents want to admit it or not, most parents have that, where it's just, and of course, my kid ended up being, Melissa went back in, they found his head.
Yeah. And he has a head. He came out
and he
with
has a head.
Yeah.
He does indeed have it. It's a full head, and it's like, and it's right on top of his body, and it's like when we saw him this time, and it was fine. But it's like that type of stuff is like it's stuff that you just can't prepare for, because it's like you assume that your ultrasound is going to go fine. You assume that your ultrasound, and not necessarily fine in the sense of like maybe they will find something, but not like you don't leave it going, it's inconclusive. You don't leave it going, well, you're gonna have to come back because I don't know, the measurements of the head isn't exactly lining up. You go back in the next day and they're just like, yeah, they just read it wrong, and you're just like, that type of stuff happens, and that type of stuff will happen to you on some level, like it's whether it's in the ultrasound or just something else. It doesn't have to be during the pregnancy, it can be during parenthood or whatever, that it's just like there's a bunch of people trying to help you, doctors, professionals, all sorts of stuff. They sometimes make mistakes, or just like they go, yeah, sometimes it's just like, yeah, you have to come back again. We have to finish the anatomy scan. And you're just like, I'm not prepared for that. Why didn't anybody tell me that? And it's like those things, you kind of just have to let them happen to you. And if you have anxiousness about them, don't feel so bad about having don't feel so bad about feeling bad about it or being worried about it, because especially in retrospect, because it's like, you're never prepared for that stuff. Like that stuff is, and you're nervous, especially as like a parent, regardless if it's your first parent or it's your second, third, whatever, fourth, fifth, 10th, whatever kid. It's like that stuff never gets easier, because it's just like, you don't know.
You just don't know.
you don't know. You're like, they couldn't see the top of his head, and you're just like, he's probably got it all, but like, how do I know? And it's like, they don't know. How do you know? And you just like, you do that, and then you just deal with it as it comes, because you can't. There's no way of getting around. There's just no way of getting around that.
And I feel like we all have these worries. I keep coming back to that. We all have these worries, and we all have these anxieties of our kids, and I think that it's all very normal, and something that I think the advice that now I feel like I can give, but I had a hard time receiving, was that you just trust your gut. Nobody knows your kid the same way you do.
Yep.
And
that's a huge one.
And you just have to go with it. And like, your kid better than anybody. For me, every kid is different. Every kid is different. For me, what helped me was talking to other people, because I had a hard time trusting my gut, and so hearing that always sometimes gave me more anxiety and worry. But now I feel like I can give that advice, is like, trust your gut. Nobody knows your kid the way you do. But also, having somebody to like bounce ideas off of and talking about is like, it helps. Like Melissa and I have always talked about things. I have some other friends that like the kids the same age, and you bounce things off of each other, and we're all going to have these worries. Trust your gut. Sometimes talking about it can really help, just like relieve that worry, or at least normalize it to some degree, and then you move on. And it's funny, because like I said, I hated hearing that, trust your gut, because I never did. But now I feel, I'm here being like, just trust your gut. No one knows your kid the way you do. And I see it now, and I feel that now. And I feel like I can also take that advice now, but in the moment it's hard. So.
Yeah. But and it's hard in the moment, because you don't have the confidence yet, because you don't know if you can trust your own gut, because you're like, it's just layers upon layers of just like, but I don't know. I don't even trust my own when it's telling me this stuff. Like, how do I know? But as you just go through it, I feel that, your gut gets smarter and you can trust it.
Smarter. I
your
like
gut
that.
gets smarter.
Your
But
gut
I
gets
do,
smarter.
but I do think that you said it right, is that, you know your kid the best. So if you feel that you're making the right decision for your kid, it doesn't matter what anybody else is really saying. It's at the end of the day, you're the parent, and you know the kid better than anybody else.
And I also wanted to say thank you to Eve's mom for writing in.
Absolutely.
That was a good topic, guys.
Yes. It was great. Yeah,
it was.
It was really wonderful. And if anybody else wants to write in and ask us questions, we'd love to hear from you.
Please do.
We are not professionals, but we will give you our opinions.
We'll give you our opinion and our experience, and
share our life advice. Share our life experience.
Yeah, not our life advice. Don't listen to us for advice, but we can share our experience.
I would warn anybody against listening to any advice that we have.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know if I gave advice as much as I just told people I panic a lot, so don't feel alone in your panic.
We all have panic attacks. Listen to us.
Let's panic together. Write us in at thestayathomes@gmail.com and tell us about your panic stories.
If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe. If you want to chat with us, slide into our DMs, leave a comment, or email us at thestayathomespodcast@gmail.com. Bye!